has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians.
Honey, I'm home. I have a surprise.
You know me. Yeah, I'm so feeling so low.
Hey, I'm so low. Maybe I'll tell you. Minipia, obey my way now to a trap. When I'm a bit of my wedding, Mr. Q.
She say me a beman kasankasa.
Nichina me now one casa. Ankasa.
What is it?
Aye, we backward and then it's strong enough. Back up and say, or backward, no one which name.
Mr. Wasimini, with your boy,
hey, I can't yard near more.
At Tufonko Kulun Ghana Limited, our East Legon, a Champion Junction, for 0244 139 176.
Mr. Q, we are Q Bako.
The nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him. Ghana show boy, Africa's great song, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.
Hey, Bukuya. The thing all the pressure to me to say, what tongue can frame from between the people and I saw Yaruko. They said when you are Joe, what to her soon. My nose and cover to me, Kaba.
Well, thank you very much for making time to watch Pan-African television this morning, and good morning to you wherever you are. And you were just watching some excerpts from last week's Monday Groove. Is on this Monday too. There's a band coming in from Jamaica, and that's the entertaining note on which we introduce today's Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We are going to discuss the major issues that made the news today, this week. But for the past few days here at Pan-African Television, it has been quite sad for the staff and management of the station, because just a few days after helping our brother KOD bury his father, one of the directors of the station also passed on. He is popularly known as Alhaji Scorpion. He has passed on. So it's another very, very sad news for those of us here at Pan-African Television. But there's a bigger issue that has been making the waves on the news bulletins this week. It is the issue of the coronavirus. Initially, it sounded distant from us. There were several conspiracy theories. There were people claiming that it won't get to us. Now we are hearing about the case getting very close to home. I'll be sharing with you some of the reports that are coming in this morning about some more details about the two persons who have been tested positive for the disease. Now, before we go there, we'd like to say a big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM. A big thank you to several affiliates across the country. Now, if you're within the Accra metropolis, tune into 92.3 FM and you can listen to the program live. But if you're a big fan of Facebook, we are on Pan-African Television. Pan-African Television, spelled out in full. You can also use the Radio Gold 905 FM page on Facebook. You can use that and watch us on Facebook. Whilst you're watching, you can share your comments with us, and hopefully we'll make space within the program to actually read those comments. A big thank you to some public places where you can hear us live. If you go to the Girl station at Mamprobi, you can get to hear us live. Those of you who are currently enjoying your meals at Mabel Restaurant, Channel 5, C5, in Nungwatu, you can get to watch us. A big thank you to every one of you who continue to provide a platform through which Alhaji and Alhaji can be heard by a larger group of people. My name is Sena Nombo, and with massive support from the crew here at Pan-African Television, Ahunto 92.3 FM, several affiliates across the country, I would like to welcome you to another edition of the Mother of All Talk Shows. Yeah, we say it as it is, we don't mince words, and when we are done, we'll leave you better educated. Let me just run by you a story that is on graphic online this morning. It is about the Norwegian embassy in Ghana. The story is that the Norwegian embassy in Ghana has closed its offices after one of its staff tested positive for the coronavirus disease. Ghana confirmed 2 cases of the deadly virus Thursday evening. The persons are said to have traveled from Norway and Turkey and arrived in Ghana within the last week. One of them is a Ghanaian, while the other is a Norwegian. The Norwegian embassy in Ghana, in a statement posted on Facebook, confirmed the nationality of the Norwegian, saying, quote, "We can confirm that one of our colleagues has tested positive for the COVID-19 virus." It added that the person was in quarantine. So that is what we are getting from the Norwegian embassy. The Facebook post continues. All staff are also in quarantine, and we are fully committed to assist with containment. The embassy is closed to the public until further notice, but staff are operating from home. So that's coming from the Norwegian embassy. There's another one coming from the UN office here in Ghana, and that's reported by City Newsroom. They are saying that the UN office in Ghana has also closed, and this is the story. It said the United Nations office in Ghana has confirmed that one of the reported cases of the deadly coronavirus reported in Ghana is a member of their staff. The UN confirmed this latest development in a press release issued on March 13, 2020. Although the identity of the UN staff member was not disclosed, the statement added that the patient worked in one of the UN buildings up until the morning of March 12, 2020. The statement further disclosed that all members of staff who worked in that particular building should work from home as a precautionary measure to ensure the virus does not spread. So we have some serious issues to deal with right there. But a couple more headlines on the story, because a lot of other institutions are taking precautions. And Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram is proposing that MPs who travel to coronavirus hit countries must report for screening. And then there's also the GS was directed that school heads suspend public gatherings over coronavirus scare. And then the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is also suspending outdoor activities, international programs over the coronavirus scare. So some steps being taken by some institutions. Earlier this week, the president addressed the nation on that issue. Now, that will be our very first topic for discussion today, the issue of coronavirus. That has led to a call from the Progressive People's Party for the EC to even reconsider the upcoming mass registration exercise, the re-registration exercise that some groups have been fighting against. Now, the Progressive People's Party is making that call. There's also a call for the National Identification Authority to stop its processes towards registering some Ghanaians. It's still ongoing, and there have been calls for that to stop immediately. Now, we'll dedicate some time to speaking to that issue, and then we'll also talk about the issue of the One Village, One Dam. One Village, One Dam was under the microscope this week, because the NDC, communications team of the NDC, actually went to the northern part of the northern region, stood in some of the dams and held press conferences. Sounded impossible, but those dams were actually dry. And so they are raising questions about exactly what the dams were supposed to do if they cannot hold water in the dry season. Well, so that will also be an issue that we'll discuss. And then we'll spend some time talking about the call for a decrease in the prices of petroleum products because of, one, the coronavirus, and what seems to be some disagreements, a national disagreement with Saudi Arabia and a few other countries. So they are flooding the market, and it's driving the prices of the products down. So there have been calls for petroleum products, the price of petroleum products fuel prices to be reduced. So we'll talk about that issue. Today, we have a heavy panel, well, I don't know if we'll take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce my panel, and then we'll start the discussion.
Mr. Kim, strong shame if you can.
Oh, Kusia, a member draw, Ghana Limited for Akofaba, the Piasso Bonitisu, and he said, because so much down for Adolf. And what Trem said, a draw, Mr. Kill, Nico Cosson, And he said, no, no, so bad, you know.
It's right. Sit down on your worry. And running down my boots as I me your back.
Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill.
Come in.
Yeah. I don't have say that here. Mr. Kill. You should back up. And not the girl. You know, baby, the man come out. Mr. Kill.
I give you all a boy could give you.
Hey, Bukuya. The thing all the pressure to me to start. What tongue can frame? Come, you said the people na ya na sa oyarugo. They said when you Joe one, what to ha wusu ni.
My nyo sanka between me kaba.
Ma.
We yari the menya no true. And nti na mama tongue craft for separa no.
Eh, na baby say fin ya go. Kwese wa mama ye machine.
Ko fichira. Wa yasi na ya na ye wo yam.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned to Pan-African Television. We are live on Pan-African Television. Alhaji and Alhaji is the program. We're also live on Ahuto 92.3 FM, several affiliates across the country. Today, like I indicated, we are discussing the issue of the coronavirus. We are discussing one village, one dam, and then we are discussing fuel prices. Those are the three topics we are discussing this morning. And of course, we'll start with the issue of coronavirus. This week, at some point, the president addressed the nation, announcing that $100 million had been released for preparatory works towards ensuring that if we ever get a case in Ghana, even if we didn't, we are fully prepared. Well, a few days after the announcement came, 2 persons had been tested positive for the disease. Now we are finding that one of them works with the UN office here in Ghana, the other with the Norwegian embassy. So the question we'll be asking is, what are we prepared, and what are the preparatory measures that are being put in place? And so that will be our very first topic for discussion. My name is Sena Nombo. Once again, do be an active part of this show. If you're watching, you'll see a number displayed on your screen. It's for our WhatsApp and text message line. Do share your thoughts with us. You can use the Facebook comment section and also share your thoughts with us. We'll make time. It's a heavy panel today, a 5-member panel. Right now, I have Mr. Kwesi Prajina, who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper, with me. Dr. David Percy is a student of history and politics. Mujib Rahman is a member of the MPP's communication team. We are hoping to be joined by Kojo Chumboafo, who is a former chief executive of the Ghana Free Zones Board, and also by the minority spokesperson on health, Kobna Minta Akando, member of parliament for Joaboso. I start this morning's discussion with Mujib Rahman on the issue of coronavirus. Mujib, good morning. Nice to see you.
Thank you, my brother. It's been a while. Yeah. Hope you are fine.
And by the grace.
We thank God. Yeah, and thank for the opportunity given to us by Pan-African TV. Sina, I think that you have just rightly put it. The deadly COVID-19 thing started somewhere in China. I think we discussed about it here a month and a half ago, when it was serious in China and they were battling it. By that time, it hadn't gone to other parts of the world. But we were all worried about it and trying to see how the world can quickly get solution to it. Because if you read what the virus is, you come to realize that it is dangerous, and if care is not taken, the way it has come is like it was taking the world by storm. And that is exactly what we are seeing today. And I remember in one of our discussions, it was like other countries, the statements coming from their officials and agents were like they were to some extent happy about what China was going through, even though some of us saw that that was not the better position. And I hope those countries today are also hit by the same virus. And last week was watching Al Jazeera, and I saw this what is the name, North Korea leader busy testing his missiles, and I was worried. I said, coronavirus is here taking the world by storm, and you are also busy there testing your missiles. So I asked a question whether the missiles can stop the virus. Well, see, but on a very serious note, I think that we were all thinking and praying that Ghana will this time around be lucky like when the Ebola outbreak, but it's like that is not the case. So far we have recorded 2 cases, and these are imported cases. As you said, one of them is a Norwegian and the other is also a Ghanaian, but coming from Turkey. They actually, but so far if we look at the government position, the government preparedness towards the containment of the virus, I think it's been very, very the best. For instance, if we go to Kotoka International Airport and then listen to the health experts and the Ministry of Health in this country, coupled with the amount of money government has also allocated as a country in preparation towards the containment of the virus, in case maybe it is, we don't pray to get there, but if it is on a very different scale, but I think that as a nation we should be praying very hard that it shouldn't get there. And I want to support the position of Donald Trump. You know, yesterday he's declaring today or this Sunday as National Day of Prayer, and he's now going back to recollect their history as a people. So I think with prayer all things are possible. I hope you are getting the argument. You can be whatever, because now let's ask ourselves why, how many months now? I am yet to I hear other people are saying that now there are some Israelis or some scientists have come out with the vaccine to, I don't know, I'm yet to read and see how true that is, but it has taken the world by surprise, and that is what worries me. It means that as new things are emerging, we should be mindful new diseases and other things will also emerge. But I was hopeful that within this time maybe the world would have been able to find a scientific solution to the problem, but indeed we are yet to get it. But when you look at the statistics so far, it is very worrying. So far 145,931 countries are being hit about the COVID-19, and deaths so far 5,440 people have lost their life as a result. Those who are recovered 72,533 who have recovered, and 146 countries have been hit, and cases so far is 145,900. So you could see it is on a very large scale. So I think that, but in our case, what we need to do is to be cautious and adhere to the advice of the health authorities in this country. Now you try as much as possible to avoid handshakes, avoid public gatherings, and adhere to the precautionary measures. I think so far that is why we all have to be educating the public. Other than that, but I think one area critical, I am still waiting to see how government will respond. You know, other countries are now banning entry of flight and other people into their country. Italy, for instance, is now under siege. I think they have 3 days ago have declared a state of emergency. No in, no out. Spain has followed suit. Now yesterday America has also done it. So I think that all these actions is telling us that we still have a long, we are still fighting it. We are still fighting it seriously. So I think as a country, quickly we also have to put certain measures in place as to how people get into this country. But if we talk of Kotoka, I am happy because of the arrangement there. You always be screened before you get into the country. But what about the other borders that are porous, that we don't have this preparation around those borders? Even if we have them there, how effective are they? For instance, people are coming in from Burkina Faso, Togo into this country. Some enter into the country through this unapproved rules that we are talking about. So I think that we have, education is important at this stage. Government duty is what government is doing, preparation, try to get the finance and get all that is necessary. But if we don't also adhere as people to the precautionary measures, I think that it will not also help. So it required a concerted effort to be able to get out of it. But my prayer, and I know that is the prayer of the people of this country, that we will not get, it will not get out of hand. Yeah.
Well, Mujib, thank you very much. Mujib Rahman is a member of the MPP's communication team, and we've been joined in the studio by Honorable Kobna Minta Kando, who is member of Parliament for Joabosu. Now, he is the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. In fact, he's been speaking about this ever since day one. So I'll be coming to him next. I know he's just joined us, but I'll be coming to him. I'll be going to him next. But before I do that, Mujib was just referring to what the Americans are doing. The story is on BBC. It says U.S. declares national emergency amid travel ban. And it says Trump's virus travel ban comes into force. And he said he's looking at about 26 European countries where you can, a ban on non-Americans traveling from 26 European countries. It comes into force today. So that's just one of the measures being put in place by the United States of America.
The world economy, I think that we can't run away.
That's a huge issue.
It has started already. It has started, so I think we have to pray.
Good morning.
Sena,
thanks for joining us.
Let me apologize for coming late. As you know, I was supposed to be appear on another program, so that's why I couldn't come early to get opportunity to listen to the brilliant submissions that have been made by.
Actually, you came in with for the first one. So you are the second person.
No, but if I had come early, he would have started. Because as a member of the Health Committee in Parliament, you have so many information to share.
So now this is the way I start this conversation. I think that at this point in time, we must take our destinies into our own hands. I mean, everybody has a role to play. The public, the media, we MPs, government. Government has a chunk of the responsibility. But this is my style of conversation on this particular matter, that it's been declared as a pandemic, and therefore it increases our risk level, and so we should encourage regular hand washing. Let's be using, I can't see any hand sanitizer on the table, so let's also encourage that one, alcohol-based one, of course. And if you are the remotest area and you cannot get access to hand sanitizer, if you have some appeal, you can also rub it. And the hand washing, you must wash it under running water. Don't go and fetch water in a pan and start dipping your hand in it, that you are washing your hand. And then we should also, and when we are sneezing, we must get tissue or handkerchief. But the health professionals, they prefer tissue, so that after that you can discard it. And then the third one is that if you come from any country that has recorded a case, okay, it is important that you don't go close to crowd and you quarantine yourself for not less than 14 days. And it is in the light of this that when President Akufo-Addo came from Norway, people trivialized it and they took me to the clinics, that it was important that we quarantine him for not less than 2 weeks. Immediately after he had arrived, the next morning he was at the airport, the cameras were on him. 3 days later he was at the Independence Square and all that. I think that it is even against the precautionary measure that has been issued by Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health. So if we issue precautionary measures, I think that we should all, as a people, stick by the precautionary measures, because this disease or virus is not a respecter of person. I hear it has killed a vice president, and a lot of high-ranking people in societies have been infected. Therefore, we all need to protect ourselves. And let me also say that so far I have not heard of any cure. But it is also, in this case, what I always say is that the virus is not as dangerous as the fear and panic in the system. And therefore, we should also be able to handle this issue carefully in order not to create more fear and panic in the system. But, Sena, the only thing that can cure the fear and panic in the system is the truth, is the transparency. How we handle the issues is the only thing that can cure the fear and panic. And again, because we don't have a cure at this point in time, what experts say is that we will always have to get a very strong immune system. Okay, so our immune system will have to fight it. And so we must get enough rest, we must drink more water, we must eat well, and avoid handshakes. As much as possible, let's avoid gathering. If we cannot avoid going to church, we must get soaps and water at standby or strategic positions so that we can regularly wash our hands. So now, right from day one, as you rightly indicated, government's attitude to this issue has been a lackadaisical one. I'm not impressed at all as a ranking member. It is not everything that I can say on this platform, but I have never been impressed. Right from day one, I insisted that we needed the highest commitment from government. Government was silent on it. We got to a point that WHO assessed our preparedness and they scored a 0 when it comes to case management. 0. I traveled to some of the borders. I share border with La Côte d'Ivoire in my constituency. I come from the Western North. I mean, a week ago, I traveled on the borders. I didn't see any arrangement there screening people. I didn't see any. You know, so I think that we even had the time, because it's been with us, it's been on the globe for about 2 to 3 months now. So all those times, I was insisting that our preparedness was not the best. So let's try to tighten up things, and nobody was listening. When the group appeared before us, they said they needed an initial amount of 35 million Ghana cedis. And the preparedness also, to a large extent, depends on money. They said they needed 35 million Ghana cedis. Government says they didn't have the 35 million Ghana cedis. So they announced, and the word here is announced, 2.5 million Ghana cedis. Even the 2.5 million Ghana cedis, not until last Monday, it was not available for them to access. The PPEs and all the things we are using now are the things we bought during the Ebola era. And you see, that political will, that commitment, I mean, that we saw during the Ebola time was what was missing when this issue cropped up. And I was always talking about it. I was always talking about this. But unfortunately, nobody was listening. When they said they needed 35 million Ghana cedis, they announced 2.5 million Ghana cedis. Then later, President says he has $100 million available. I don't know whether it was coincidence or what, that immediately after the announcement, 24 hours later, we recorded 2 cases. Whether the president knew something that we didn't know, or it was a mere coincidence, that I cannot answer. And mind you, the mere announcement of an amount of money does not mean that the money is available.
I think the word he used was released.
Well, a lot of questions. You see, there are more questions than answers. What is the source of the money? Why didn't it come through Parliament? If you think that there's an item in the Appropriation Act 2020 that we are going to waive to use that money for this purpose, what items are that? If it is from donor fund, how much? If it's a combination, how much are we taking from the consolidated fund? How much are we getting from the donor people? These are unanswered questions. What is the details of the expenditure of the 100 million? These are all questions that needs, and I've told you that the only thing that can cure our fear and panic is how government will let us see that they are on top of the issues. So now, the aim was to tighten our borders so that there wouldn't be anybody entering with a virus. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we have failed. Because the 2 confirmed cases, they were not picked from the airport straight to the facility. So the questions, number 1, the question is that, what flight did they travel on? How many people were on board? Have we been able to trace all? From the airport to the house, after 1 week, how many people they have interacted with? And rumors even has it that one of the confirmed cases interacted with government diplomats in Norway when they went and opened our chancery over there. So that was the more reason why I was saying that, look, those people should have been quarantined when they arrived. You know, so there are more questions that yesterday, for example, I raised the issue on the floor of the House, and I said that after we had recorded 2 cases, the minister must come back. And then I praised the House, the emergency preparedness that we have in place, you know, and all these. And you see, right from day one, especially when we had 2 suspected cases at Kolebu, if you recall how they were handled. When the cases got there, the health professionals were running helter-skelter. It tells you that they were not prepared themselves. I can tell you, if you go to Rich Hospital, they started training them 3 days ago on Monday. On Thursday, they went and gave them 2 patients. At this point in time, we should have had at least 1 isolation center in every region. I come from the Western North. I don't know of any isolation center. You see, that was why we were insisting that if you are a government and you come to power, you prioritize your health sector. And so if you come to meet ongoing projects, expedite action on them. Today, we should be mentioning Bank of Ghana Hospital. It's been missing in the conversation. Why? Because we are not operationalizing it. We should be mentioning University of Ghana Medical Center. It's a quaternary healthcare center facility. And it's above all the hospitals that has been mentioned so far, but it's operational at 10%. Do we have to wait till we get to this point before we put in ad hoc measures? Because we have not prioritized our health sector. That is why we are seeing what we are seeing. And so for me, Sena, I am not impressed. I don't intend creating fear and panic in the system at all. But there are a lot of things we can do. Especially when you raise issues of the source of money that the president says that they have released, and then the deputy majority leader tells you that, oh, they will see if they will add it to the business statement of the week, whether or not they will come to parliament. These are issues that we must all interrogate. Provide the PPEs to the health professionals. They are ready to assist, to give their all, but they need the logistics. As I speak to you now, some of them even buy their own sanitizers. They buy their own sanitizers. So for me, the way we started handling this matter, if we had tightened our borders and had probably increased. Look, 2 months ago, I suggested to the committee that appeared before us, look, the cheapest thing, the easiest thing you can do is that make jingles and distribute to the various radio stations and TV stations to be played, to create the awareness, so that the people you are intending to protect will be aware of how to handle themselves. It is only yesterday that the radio station the media has called me that they've sent them some jingles. Only yesterday. This virus has been on the globe for since December. 3 months ago. We've been waiting all this while. And you get people to come and whitewash government. But look, Sena, we are all at risk. We are all at risk. So for me, I think that government must up its game. And if they say there's some money, how they will spend it, they should tell us, at least as a committee. It's not a matter of business as usual, that you release money and you go and give it to full soldiers and you don't use it for the purpose for which it was released. Everybody, a medical doctor called me and he asked me, Honorable, now we've heard that some medical doctors have lost their lives as a result of this virus, treating patients. Today, if I come into contact with a patient that is carrying that virus and I don't want to go home or a hotel, I want to quarantine myself, where do I go? All these things must be in place. All this. If you go to Rich Hospital, I can tell you where they have converted to be an isolation center. There's a story building there if you enter on your left. That has been converted to they used to call it VIP. That has been converted as an isolation center. But the experts will tell you they need a room that has a negative pressure. Negative pressure. So the way things are going, we all need to play our roles. I am not happy at all. I am not happy about the way things are going. We do the announcement and they go to sleep. The next thing you see is that they are organizing themselves to do a press conference. Absolutely nothing. You call them to come and brief you and they repeat what they told you probably during the previous meetings. That's all. You call the minister and says, I'm in my constituency doing my primaries. I can tell you on authority, the last but one time when they appear, you ask the minister, including his two deputies, none of them appeared. None of them. I am not encouraged about the preparedness. I am not encouraged about how government is handling this issue. I think we can do more than that. Now, information has said that a Ghanaian has contracted the disease. Initially, I heard it was one Norwegian and one Turkish. Unfortunately, they say the one who was coming from Turkey is a Ghanaian. We were under the impression that blacks couldn't have contracted the disease or the virus. So now, I believe that we need to wash our hands well. We need to up our education. We need to strengthen our immune system. We need to avoid gatherings. If we cannot avoid going to church, let's make water and soaps available so that we try as much as possible to avoid it or to prevent the spread. At least the 2 cases we have recorded, we should be able to contain the 2 cases for now. But to sum it all, I am not impressed about our operation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kobna Mintakano is Member of Parliament for Job also. Is a ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. Just 2 messages before I move on to Dr. David Percy. AU Farouk in Tamale is saying, in fact, the preparedness of Ghana towards the coronavirus is panicky and frightening. Government must stop the talk and provide necessary materials for safeguarding Ghanaians. Mohamed Fru says he's outside this country. He said there's no coronavirus in Ghana. Kufuor and MPP just want to steal our $100 million. Where are the patients? What have they done with the money? The Minister for Information has a simple proposal for those of you who are doing that. Go and see him. You will take it there. You go and hug them. Then you know whether they are is real or not.
This is coming from the Minister. I don't think that
he's actually said that.
No.
He's actually said that. Well, but the announcement is that 2 persons have tested positive for the disease, and the confirmations from the UN office and from the Norwegian embassy tells us that it is real. It is real. So I don't think at this point in time those kind of doubts are necessary. Doc.
Thank you. Well, we're told that the COVID-19, right, is now a pandemic, implying that it is a disease that is spreading practically on all continents, across all regions of the world. This matter has been in train since, I believe, December. It's even possible that even before it came out formally at that time, based on what we know about the development in China, that initially there was a posture that this was a rumor or something that was being done, spread, as it were, to bring the authorities into disrepute. Okay. But what this thing does is to bring into relief the character of our current world, our interconnectedness, the possibility that from one part of the world you can get to the farthest point in less than 3 days. I'm saying this because historically there have been a number of pandemics. I think the last official pandemic was HIV. It spread before people knew what it was. And I believe that we have a similar thing on our hands. Forget about the report about cases that are being detected at point of entry. My belief is that we have this thing. We've had it in-house for quite a while. Based on what I read and what I hear about the nature of the disease, that you can have people carrying it, spreading it, without even showing symptoms. Okay? And in the context of Ghana, given the many issues that ordinary people face, this is not something that may come into national attention. We have people quietly dying in villages and in settlements up and across this country without any fanfare. Okay. So, but coming back to the issue that brought up this conversation, the government announced, first of all, we heard of a WHO assessment that said that our country was unprepared, and that was no surprise to me. That we have issues with health infrastructure, that in the whole of this country, I've gotten to know that now we have 2 testing centers, one in Oguchi and another here in Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research. I didn't know about that. But for a country, given our stretch and our population, 2 centers, completely inadequate. That you take, both in terms of cost and time, of you take a sample. Let's say somebody comes, it's at the entry point at Kotoka. You take a sample. You have to send it by the fastest means. Is it drone or by to Noguchi? Noguchi is, well, that one is, you can even take Okada. But let's take Kumasi, say. And I doubt whether they can do more than a few dozen a day. Okay. But we are learning from the global conversation that in dealing with an issue like this, first need to be able to check people at when they're accessing either border or whatever, closed area. You need to be able to test quickly and to track. Now, in the wake of the announcement about this $100 million, is it dollar or is it
dollars? Yeah,
dollar. Yes, okay. And of course, all the questions that the honorable MP is asking are valid questions. It helps if people know whether they have been in touch with the suspected case, right? In terms of follow-up. At this point, we should know when this thing happened, when and where, okay? So that people on their own can begin to find out about their own situation, etc., etc., etc. But, you know, one thing I've come to learn, especially from the start of this year, with the fanfare about the ambulances, is that one must see every development in our country within the prism of the president's re-election. And shall we say, enhanced attempts to make him look good at all times. The truth is that, as the Honorable MP said, our state of preparedness is nothing to write home about. Okay, but in that sense, Ghana is not unique. Okay, you watch the television, you follow the news, and you see that a powerful country like the U.S. see disarray and the shambolic approach that has characterized this thing. Okay. But one thing that stands out in all of this, it brings into sharp relief the very fact of the global political economy being at war with society. The global economy does not function for our needs. In the US and other places, the preoccupation has been how to preserve profits But this pandemic, like no other, has brought us to a new place. And I'm sure that before we get out of this, we will have to do revisions to how we see and approach issues. I pointed out from the very beginning about the fact of our interconnectedness. The fact that not just in Ghana, but almost globally, you see governments in disarray because the systems are not set up for our benefit, for the benefit of the working people, not just in Ghana. So people are worrying about how to protect the profits of the corporations, and not so much how to keep the populations safe and well. And that's how I see this this fund that has been found. Okay, we have to insist that no people should use, quote unquote, an emergency to reap where they have not sown. Now, announcing a fund of $100 million doesn't say anything. On the very day the announcement was made, I was following a news report on, I believe it was TV3, who had a number of correspondents at a number of, I think there was one at the airport, there was one at, I believe, at one of the entry points on the border. And you could see that really there was no coordination. At one point, the health, there's a health person at the border. I forget the title they gave to that. I was kind of waking from an afternoon nap, and he was being asked, so what is the system of surveillance that you have in place? And he was just mumbling something. There was someone who spoke. He said that, no, he sent in text saying that as a health worker, they had nothing on case management. Okay? So, if you're ready, you would have points for testing, and it cannot be one, which will take a matter of days. Following television, at least I know that in Korea, they've developed kits that can bring you results within 4 hours. Within 4 hours. Okay? And so if you have only 2 testing centers countrywide, and it's going to take several days, then it's really a matter for weeping, really. Some people may laugh at this, but it's really a matter for weeping. Then what capacity we have for tracing, and for, as the question was asked, for putting people in quarantine if they need be. Okay? But all of these are questions looking for answers. Okay? All I can do is to point to the fact that as countries, as political economies, we are wholly unprepared for what everybody could see coming. Because historically, pandemics have occurred. Like I said, there was the AIDS epidemic. The most famous one that comes to mind was the 1918 Spanish flu, which killed, I read 100 million people worldwide, which spread slowly after the First World War. At that time, the speed of travel was much slower. It came with troops returning from the battlefield, and it was in all corners of the world by the end of that year. Okay. Today things can move faster. We have the benefit of the internet, which also unfortunately also aids the spread of rumor and they call it fake news. Okay. Including the invulnerability of black people. You hear people say that, oh, in our climate, in our temperatures, these things don't work, etc., etc., etc. What I'm saying is that there's a flood of information, okay, a fair amount of which is just false and rumor and panic mongering. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, what is likely to happen, regardless of the best efforts of governments, whether here or abroad, is that this infection would make its course. And what will really happen eventually is that populations will get infected and they will develop immunity. Okay? If you're Ghanaian, your best this thing is to adhere to the indicators that have been put out. Personal hygiene, avoid coughing openly if you can, cover this thing in fairness to yourself and to your neighbors. Social distancing, avoiding public events if you can. I mean, if you must. I mean, if you can avoid going out, don't. If you can avoid traveling, don't. Okay. One piece of advice I picked up: cook your. Well, I mean, maybe talking to a guy, maybe it's a waste of time. Cook your eggs and meat well. We tend to cook our eggs and meat well. Anyway, and take care of yourself generally. Perhaps from also what I read, people like myself are at greater risk. People who are in their 60s and heading on. Maybe younger people have a better shot of making it. Okay. But what I think will happen eventually, given all the shambles and the disarray, okay, and this beggar my neighbor posture of that spreading, I mean, it's a corresponding epidemic, okay, from Donald Trump down to the lowest, where people feel to see and to act on the basis of our interconnectedness and our interdependence. Okay. I don't see any other game playing out at this time, except what we are seeing unfolding, unfortunately. Maybe we can draw lessons and pointers to the future from it, but I'm not very hopeful about what we can do right now beyond the steps that we can take individually and as collectives, okay, and maybe watch out.
Okay. Doc, thank you very much, Dr. David Percy. One message, and I come to Kojo Chumbua for Ibrahim sending a message through our Facebook page, Pan-African Television, says, Sena, for me, my question is, if the federal government of Nigeria allocated $3 million to fight COVID-19 with the country's large population of 190.9 million and its economy of $375.8 billion US dollars GDP, which is the largest economy in Africa and 27th in the world, whilst our motherland Ghana, with a population of 30 million, with an economy of $67 billion, is allocating and hoping $100 million to fight the virus, and the ministry is telling us that that money is to be spent on educating people, build isolation facility and drugs. Are we going to create the vaccine with such a huge amount of money? How can we trust the government, knowing very well how money conscious they are and the zeal at which they run into government on lies to impoverish the people of Ghana and enrich themselves? They show no commitment to solving a single problem in the country rather than looting the taxpayer. How can we trust these people? We already know by their colors. That's coming from Ibrahim. Thank you very much for sending that message. Mr. Chumbo.
Yeah, good morning to the viewers of Pan-African Television on this very somber Saturday morning, and good morning to listeners in all the affiliated radio stations. I'm sure nobody is remiss as to what is happening in the world right now, and I say this, and I put emphasis on the word. This COVID-19 or coronavirus, as we know it to be, has achieved pandemic status. When Dr. Percy was talking, he was talking about HIV. I'm yet to be corrected, but I don't think HIV was elevated to pandemic status. I mean, historically, pandemic status diseases that I can think of is the bubonic plague that ravaged the whole of Northern Europe and Asia and decimated the population there. But be that as it may, we have realized and we know the kinds of people who have been affected by this. Some of the people include the Canadian Prime Minister's wife, the press secretary to the Brazilian president, the health minister of the United Kingdom, footballers like our own Callum Hudson-Odoi, a Ghanaian by birth, Michael Arteta, the manager of Arsenal. So clearly, we have a disease that has no boundaries, doesn't respect anybody who has any money, or doesn't respect anybody who's poor. Statistically, 145,000 odd people have gotten the disease. It has killed 5,429, which means that it averagely kills 4% of the people who get it. As to long-term damages that it causes, we have no idea. But in this country, Ghana, we were aware of what was going on. And we were told to pray. On Thursday, I was on a program with a government minister. And for those who watched that program, it was a morning program. I was very upset with him when he was talking about the fact that the president of this country had built a cathedral to the glory of God. Therefore, God was going to spare us the pandemic. The next day, the reports came out that two people had the disease. And at the time, I strongly made the point that there is no place on this planet that people pray more than Italy. At the very least, the Pope operates from Italy. The Pope and his cardinals and all the nuns, all they do is pray. And he made the point that this country
has God's blessing. And I remember asking him that if God says he created us in his image, and if you were God, Milan and Accra, where would you want to live? Seattle and Accra, where would you want to live? New York, New Rochelle and Accra, where would you want to live if you were indeed God and you created us in your image? You see, my good friend and brother, Honorable Minta Kando, made a point that the government is not serious. And they are not serious. As we speak now, it is an open secret in this country who that Norwegian official is that has contracted this. It is an open secret. Everybody knows. And yet, the government has refused to tell us who it is. In other countries, the people who contracted this immediately make it public. And if you want to talk about follow-up, contact follow-up, the best way to do contact follow-up is to let the public know who has the disease. Yesterday, the Minister of Health said he will not disclose where the isolation center is. My God.
Did he say that?
Yes. And then they come and tell us that they have $100 million. Do we have $100 million in this country as we speak for anything? After we've paid our debts, after we've paid the interest on our debts, after we've paid salaries and emoluments, after we've paid all the money that we travel with, do we have $100 million in this country? This person, and I'm talking about the Norwegian so-called Norwegian diplomat, there are pictures running all over the internet of the government people he associated with. And we all know that recently a slew of government officials, including our president, went to Norway to commission a chancery. Are those people self-isolating? Are they testing themselves? As we speak today, there are schools in this country that have asked their pupils, their students to go home because of contact follow-up and association with that Norwegian official. Why are we not mentioning who it is? So that people who may have come into contact with him wittingly or unwittingly, at the very least, self-isolate. You want to stop panic? You give people information so that they know what to do and how to do it. This disease doesn't respect anybody. I also want to go to mass gatherings. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching me, this disease is upon us. In Italy, the Italian government has asked people not to go to church. They have asked people to stay away from mass gatherings. And I am calling on the religious leaders in this country to be responsible and ask people, at least for the moment, to stay at home and worship. I know people are very, very reluctant to mention this, but we have a saying in Jesus, we all know how this virus is transmitted. Certain schools have sent their students home. I'm also expecting the Ministry of Education to look at the possibility of asking students to go home. The Easter holidays is almost upon us. At least until we know that this disease has been contained, because now it is here. This morning, radio stations are reporting that a third person has been reported to have it. A third person. So let's stop playing. And then there is the Electoral Commission. As we speak today, not a word has come from the Electoral Commission about the impending registration that they intend to carry out on 18th April. Are they expecting us to go and line up and cough into each other's faces and get coronavirus? If somebody has it, spread it so that somebody can be re-elected at all costs? The so-called machines that they said were at the end of term, and for which reason they were going to import new ones, where are those machines coming from? Are they not coming from China? The company that they gave the contract to, are they not French? A French company? Have they checked the prevalence of that disease in France? Are we going to go and stand in line and everybody put their fingers on the same machines, and then after Mr. A, who may have symptoms of that disease, puts their fingers, then Mr. B or Mrs. B will go and put their fingers and then go home and spread it to their children and elderly people in their homes? Because clearly one of the statistics that we are learning is that the disease affects more people over 55 than any other group. As we speak today, the Electoral Commission has said nothing. It is as if they haven't heard. And indeed, Governor, I say this with all due deference to you guys in Parliament. We haven't heard anything on that score from you guys, from you people in Parliament. And it is as if people are afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. You people want 30 million people to go and line up to re-register. And nobody is raising the specter of what could happen if we register, we go and line up and register, and all of us put our fingers and our faces down the same facial recognition. Somebody has put his face on the machine, and we are going to put our faces on that same machine. What is going to happen next? And not a whimper is coming from Parliament. Not a whimper is coming from the government on that score. Not a whimper is coming from my own party, the NDC. Nothing. Because somehow we want to avoid the topic. Do we want to wait until it happens before we all start scrambling? Remember that this disease doesn't care if you have an American passport. So this is not one of the things that you can run away to America, or run away to Europe, or run away. You can't go anywhere. If you have 3 current visas in your passport, you can't go anywhere. You can't go to Italy. You can't go to the Netherlands. You can't go to the UK. You can't go anywhere. So unless you dig a hole and enter it, you can't go anywhere. Why is the Electoral Commission not coming out to tell us what they are going to do with respect to this impending registration? That registration is in less than a month's time. People have cancelled. Look, sporting events have been cancelled. The Premier League has been cancelled. NBA have been cancelled. The players, and all of you have seen a particular NBA player who was joking with reporters and was touching their equipment and has been diagnosed as having the virus. He's sick. A very famous actor, perhaps one of the most famous actors in the history of movies, Tom Hanks and his wife, Rita Wilson, have contracted the virus. They contracted it in Australia. So, my friends, there's nowhere to go. Whether you come from a maybe up the hill, maybe those of us who come from up the hill, the virus cannot climb the hill. But when we get there, we will be asking for passports. Me, I'm an indigent of a people.
Passport to go where?
Passport to come up the hill. You can't come out to Bogor. Passport is a regular visitor, so we will accept it. You see, let us get serious about this thing. Because what are we going to do? Are we waiting till it kills somebody we know before we start getting serious? Those government officials who went to Norway and interacted with that particular official, please, all of you go into self-isolation. Let's get serious about this thing. And if the Electoral Commission and other agencies that are associated with mass gatherings in this country will not come up and give us guidelines of what we should do, I think that registration should be suspended. It should. Listen, Mujib, you know what? I would rather. Mujib, we get there. No, even if you don't mention it, but nobody will go and vote. Exactly. I would rather not vote. I would rather whoever is in power stays in power till kingdom come. If that virus is going to stay till kingdom come, because I don't want to die. I have children to look after. Let us make sure that we are doing the right things. Mass gatherings should be discouraged. That electoral registration is a mass gathering. It's a mass gathering that is going to go on for months. So whatever money they have spent, whatever procurement that they want to do, whatever it is that they want to appropriate, whatever it is, it doesn't even matter anymore. Suspend it. Suspend it completely. If schools have realized the need to send their pupils home because of possible contact, let everybody else follow suit and do the right thing. Because, like we said, we are not prepared. There are some reports that even as at the time that this thing came to Ghana, the BBC reported it. I don't have that information, but I've been told that the BBC reported it and it was denied. Now it is upon us. It is one thing. It is one thing that if this thing is not upon us, but it is here. And you know something?
And
my friend,
I'm hoping I'll be like your last point here.
One of the foremost experts on public health in this world is a gentleman called Dr. Victor Bampo. He was the Deputy Minister of Health in the NDC administration. I don't know why this government haven't contacted him. Because he's at the WHO as we speak. He's one of the foremost and one of the most intellectually sound human beings I have ever come across. He wrote an article on the advent of this thing and said that let us not be complacent because these viruses are being spread. It's an economic thing. Because that many people don't come to Africa as part of tourism and that kind of thing, we shouldn't think it won't come, because it will come. And if you look at the manner in which it is being spread, we in Africa have been lucky. But it is because of the fact that those people who may have it do not come. And now that they are here, you see the pattern in which it is being spread. Why are we not contacting the man who marshaled our effort against Ebola? At the time, I don't want to read, Mujib, I don't want to read some of what your friends in your party said about President Mahama, including the current president. Let's leave that. It's already happened. But let's learn from those mistakes. Let us make sure that this thing doesn't kill anyone. At least let's make sure it doesn't kill anybody in this country. because it will be very sad commentary. And as for that $100 million, look, let's stop playing. When the WHO said we should bring 35 million CDs, the government didn't have it. They only bought 2.5. They don't have 100 million to give anybody. If they are creating a bottomless pit or a slush fund that they can go and steal from, that's another matter altogether. They should stop playing. We don't have $100 million to spare on Ebola. We haven't had $100 million to spare on malaria. We haven't had $100 million to fill potholes. We haven't had $100 million to take all the women who are lying on the floor in Kolebu from there. Let's just get serious.
Thank you very much, Kojo Chumba. Let me read one message and I'll go to Mr. Pratt. Muji, please, let me after Mr. Pratt, I'll come to you, please. Don't worry. Senator Bright in Dansoman says, Senator, please kindly ask Honorable Minta Akando to confirm or deny if these two infected persons were in the country about 9 days before government came out to announce it to the public. Nigeria, with a population of over 200 million people, recorded just one case of the COVID-19 and had budgeted $3 million to deal with the outbreak. So how come Ghana is budgeting $100 million on the population of just 30 million people? Is it another way to create loot and share among family members? Lastly, how come God did not reveal COVID-19 to our powerful men of God, the native doctors in this country, after building a cathedral for him? So now tell our long cassock men of God to help us with the anointing oils, back to sender oils. Satan is a liar water, and those powerful magic stickers to cure the sickness. Mr. Pratt.
Well, first of all, I think that most of our viewers are aware that on Thursday we lost one of our directors, Alhaji Shiraz, Mohammed Shiraz. He was buried on Friday in Tamale, and unfortunately, because of the rush with which Muslims do these things, many of us were unable to be in Tamale. I'm told that tomorrow the third day ceremony will be held, and again it's not going to be possible for many of us to be in Tamale. We are planning to do something in his honor after all those things have been done in Accra, and we would announce a date and time, and we will be inviting all of our well-wishers to participate in that event, which is to do honor to the memory of Alhaji Shiraz, otherwise known as Scorpion. Indeed, Alhaji Shiraz was not just a businessman and a director of this company. He was somebody who was very, very passionate about the struggle against imperialism in his own way. And the dream that we all had and shared in building this station was to build an alternative television station which would tell the African story. He would not be around to participate in that struggle, but we do hope that the things that he had done in the past would serve as some kind of a signpost leading us to a destiny of a fully free Africa, playing its own role in shaping a new world where exploitation and oppression will be banished. We extend our condolences to the family of Alhaji Mohammed Shiraz, otherwise known as Scorpion. You know, the problem with the coronavirus and its spread is that the science of the virus is not yet fully determined. There are too many gray areas. And we're dealing with this problem on the basis of assumptions. And that is what makes this very, very worrying. Because I've listened to the experts, and if you look at the records, the effect of the coronavirus is perhaps not even as serious as common influenza. Indeed, only this morning, I was listening to a health expert who said that the effect is far milder than influenza and so on. Again, there have been other pandemics in the world, And they did cause a lot more havoc because science at the time was relatively underdeveloped and so on. But the problem with this virus is that the science around it has not as yet been fully disclosed or discovered. And therefore, even medical personnel are making extremely misleading statements, genuinely. And yesterday morning, I heard a medical practitioner who was telling us, that, sex would not speed up the transmission of the disease. And that people should go about their sex life normally and so on. And I was shocked. Because we are being told that we should keep a gap of about 1.8 meters between us and strangers and so on. Now 1.8 meters, how do you have sex with somebody when you keep a gap of 1.8 meters between you and the person?
So, again?
Please. You understand? Sex happens to be a very intimate, it's contact. I don't see any other thing which brings about much more contact than sex. So even though the disease may not be transmitted through fluids, like semen and so on, sex now with strangers must be a total no-no because of the contact that is involved in it and so on. And yet, medical personnel, well-educated medical personnel and so on, are giving us this advice innocently because the science has not been fully established and so on. Now in Ghana, the claim is that we now have 2 confirmed cases. And there are people who look at it and say, oh, only 2 confirmed cases, it's not that serious. My brother, it is extremely serious. All of the 2 persons that have been confirmed as having the virus came into this country by air travel. Okay? So if you are to take this thing seriously and to work on it, we need to identify all persons that they have gotten in touch with. And all persons that the people they have gotten in touch with have gotten in touch with. I'm sure that we'll be counting today, if we did the extrapolation, we'll be counting tens of thousands of people. First of all, imagine that the aircrafts they came to Ghana with had 100 passengers each. Just 100 passengers each. We are talking about 200 people that we need to trace and test and quarantine. 200 people. Okay? All of these 100 people may have slept in hotels, may have slept in houses and so on. We need to identify the hotels and identify the houses and even identify the vehicles, the mode of transportation they use from hospital, from airport to their homes and so on. And identify the people who were involved. That's huge. Only yesterday, 2 schools announced that they were temporarily closing down. Why? One of the schools, I know as a fact that the Norwegian has his child in one of the schools. Okay? These schools, they have common toilet facilities for all the students. They have a common dining area for all the students. The child was in a classroom and so on. So everybody in that school, including teachers, non-teaching staff, including drivers and so on, are all of them need to be identified and tested. In addition to that, these students, these school children and so on, they live in houses, they live in homes with their families. All of their families need to be identified, they need to be tested. So can you imagine the numbers? One of them, we are told, was working with the UNDP and was going to work until the Noguchi Memorial Institute confirmed that he had the virus. It means that all the people who work in the UNDP office must be targeted, must be tested, and must be quarantined. You understand? The Norwegian actually held a party, and we have seen videos and photographs of the party and the numbers of people who attended that party. They included businessmen, they included diplomats, other diplomats, they included government officials, and so on. All of those people and the people they have contacted and touched, and so on, must be targets. Now, what I'm saying is that if for two people who have been confirmed as having the virus, we need to find thousands, examine thousands, and perhaps confirm whether or not they have it. Can you imagine the situation when we have 20 people with the virus? Can you imagine? Just 20 people with the virus. Now, yesterday something happened which for me was most significant. Government had announced a number of telephone numbers, you understand, that people who suspected that they may have contracted the disease or who in any way had information to offer on the virus and its spread and so on, should contact those numbers. We did a very simple exercise in Pan-African television yesterday morning. We called the numbers. None of those numbers responded. Yesterday morning, here in Pan-African, and I can show you we took record, we took screenshots of the calls. None of the emergency numbers provided by government responded as of yesterday. And that must be frightening for everybody. The emergency numbers are not responding. So that is the state of our preparedness. Now, in the beginning, government did indicate that it was setting aside 2.5 million cedis to combat the disease, or to prepare to face a possible outbreak. Now, when I heard about 2.5 million cedis, I was deeply worried. And what can you do with 2.5 million cedis today? If we're hit by the coronavirus, what will 2.5 million cedis do? Soon after that, the figure then went up to 2.9 million Ghana cedis. And I still thought that it was a joke. Then the World Health Organization did its evaluation, country by country evaluation, and came to the conclusion that looking at the Ghana program, there was a funding gap of 35 million Ghana cedis. Now, what that simply means, let's break it down. What that simply means is that without questioning the Ghana program, whether it was good or bad or adequate or inadequate and so on, if you looked at it and you costed it, you found that the Ghana needed 35 million cedis more, which it had not been able to indicate its availability or not. You understand? Funding gap of 35 million cedis. Just then, the Ghana Health Service made a very interesting statement indicating that even the 2.9 million Ghana cedis had not been made available. It was just talk. Government just said that it was committing 2.9 million cedis to fight the virus, but government had not made that money available. So then, if you take the World Health Organization's own reckoning and so on, our effort at fighting the disease at that time was zero. No funding. Then, all of a sudden, I saw the president and other government officials wearing face masks and visiting the airport and other places. You understand? There was no talk about the funding gap. There was no talk about the non-release of the 2.9 million CDs that government itself said was committing to the project and so on. And the praise singers started doing their work. President has visited the airport, so everything was fine. Ghana was ready. Newspaper headlines and so on. The president visiting the airport does not make anything ready. With a funding gap of 35 million Ghana cedis and the non-release of the 2.9 million Ghana cedis that the government itself promised, the president visiting the airport meant nothing. And yet the praise singers were at work. Then, strangely, government decided to ban public officials from traveling. And that day, I felt sad for this country. I felt sad for this country because the level of sycophancy, the cacophony of sycophancy that was poured through the airwaves and so on, was so shocking. If you ban public officials from traveling, does that prevent the spread of the disease? Show me how. Today, as we sit here, if you take the 2 persons who were confirmed as having had the virus, they went to the Flagstaff House to have meetings with public officials. It was in Ghana. Those people who met the Norwegian diplomat needn't travel before they get the disease. They can get it in Flagstaff House. Those public officials who went to his party did not travel to become suspects and so on. You understand? In any case, if you ban public officials from traveling, and the rest of us, 29 million people, can travel in and out of this country, so what have you done? And who says that only Ghanaians can bring the disease into Ghana? You understand what I'm saying? Foreigners are allowed in their hundreds to come in and go out and so on. So that ban on travel by public officials was at best populist, empty, and meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. Then, all of a sudden, we heard that the government had allocated $100 million for the fight against the virus. In a sense, I was happy. In a sense. And that sense simply is that for government to move from 2.9 million Ghana cedis to 540 million Ghana cedis was an indication that government was beginning to recognize the magnitude of the problem. Because the journey from 2.9 million to 540 million is a very long journey. So how come that in less than 1 month, we have moved from 2.9 million to $100 million or 540 million Ghana cedis? That made me happy, because then somebody was beginning to appreciate the full dimensions of the problem. But then, it's important to recognize that there's a huge distance between promise and fulfillment. Huge distance. Now, this statement that $100 million is being allocated to the fight against the virus, as we sit here now, nobody knows where that money is coming from. Nobody knows, even how the money is actually going to be disbursed and so on. And I'm deeply worried by this situation. Now, there's something which is very, very important which nobody is addressing. I haven't heard anybody address. Indeed, I was sitting here hoping that my comrade and friend Dr. Percy will raise them. He is very good at raising those issues and so on, but today I didn't hear him say it. The World Health Organization has said that China has done extremely well in combating the virus and helping the rest of the world to combat the virus. One of the things that China has done is that it has tried to determine the signs of the virus and spread the information to the rest of the world without any inhibition at all. China, all the research they have done and so on, the research findings are available to the world. China was able to control the disease through a system of quarantining and so on. China built 2 ultra-modern hospitals from scratch to finish in 10 days, fully furnished, fully operational in 10 days. It has never happened anywhere in the world and so on. Now, you compare China to the United States of America, and if you compare China to the United States of America, you come to realize that the United States is far, far, far behind. 20 million citizens of the United States of America do not have any access to healthcare. 20 million, no access to healthcare. More than 100 million United States citizens do not have health insurance. They have some form of access to healthcare, but they don't have health insurance. You understand? And so on. In some parts of the United States of America, to get a test to confirm whether or not you have a coronavirus, it costs the individual $3,000. $3,000. Do you understand? So, if there's an outbreak in the United States, now there's an outbreak in the United States, can the political and social system in the United States help it to deal with the virus in the same way that the political and social system in China has aided China to deal with the virus? So here, we are talking about the political economy of the coronavirus. What political systems we build, what economic systems we build, and how those systems help us to deal with such pandemics. Now, the coronavirus has demonstrated very clearly to us that the model of state which makes healthcare a commodity will be a total failure when it comes to combating such outbreaks. That the only model which is able to deal with this situation is a model which sees health as a human need which must be provided to all citizens, whether they are poor, rich, or whatever. You understand what I mean? So, the system we are building today in Ghana, this property-owning democracy and so on, is bad for situations such as this one. What you need to build is an egalitarian system which sees health, housing, education, and so on as necessary social services which must be provided for all, and which places state intervention at the center of the provision of the needs of our people, and so on. It's clear. You understand? So this should provide us an opportunity to begin to think again about the political and social systems we are constructing in our country, and its full impact when indeed we are confronted with cases such as this one. Now, this virus, we are first told that if you are suspected to have it and so on, and you are placed in quarantine for 2 weeks, at the end of the 2 weeks, symptoms would manifest and so on. Only last week, research proved that that is not true. That in some people, the conditions begin to manifest after 21 days. So if you put them in quarantine and release them after 14 days, you are joking. You understand? And this is what I'm saying, talking about the science that is not very, very clear still. Then we've also been told through all the researches which are being done and so on, that actually some people get the virus, it never develops into disease and so on, but they have the capacity to spread it. Even as they look normal, they are not coughing, they are not sneezing, their nose is not running and so on. They are carriers and they can spread it and so on. Now there's something very important. In South Korea, so far, it has been established that one woman who went to an all-night service was the genesis of the spread of the virus. One all-night service. Today, after China, South Korea is the second country with the highest number of infected persons. And it came from a church service. You understand? So we should be worried about public gatherings and so on. We should be worried. Now, my brother Kodochun Buafo has raised legitimate questions about the electoral register, the compilation of the electoral register and so on. These are legitimate concerns. But there are other issues that we should be worried about. Let us engage the electoral commissioner or commission. Let us all engage and try to determine the repercussions of carrying out a voter registration exercise at this time. Of course, there are serious concerns, and he raises those serious concerns and so on. But let us also do an extension. I mean, as far as Kodo is concerned, he doesn't care if December 7 comes and President Akufo-Addo is still president. He doesn't care. You understand? But it raises serious problems. How can he continue to govern after December 7th without the mandate of the people? How can he? Because clearly, by December 7th, he would not have the mandate of the people. What does the Constitution say? Of course, it will be a state of emergency. We'll be in a state of emergency. Does the Constitution allow him to continue? And so on. And you see, we should not just be raising this question about the coronavirus. We should be raising it about many other issues. It is obvious that the state of affairs in the Volta region appears to be deteriorating slowly. On 6 March, for example, the flag of Western Togoland was hoisted on the Volta Regional Administration. Yes.
Regional Coordinating Council.
Yeah. Regional Coordinating Council or whatever. The flag was hoisted. Now, only yesterday, I saw a post on WhatsApp, placards and so on, saying that, there is no coronavirus in Western Togoland, and that is an indication that their president is up to the task and so on. All these things are seeping in. Now, I've heard government communicators, talking about moving soldiers to the Volta region to crush any possible rebellion, move soldiers and the weapons there and so on. I'm frightened by these kinds of statements. So it is possible. I'm not saying that it should happen. I don't want it to happen and so on. It is just possible that the state of affairs in that place would escalate. And I say this also guided by history. Because at some point in our history, Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had to send soldiers to Alabama to crush a military uprising in support of the declaration of Western Togoland. Now, we are talking about emergencies and how they can impact on our democratic rights and so on. If the situation in the Volta region should escalate, can government declare a state of emergency in the Volta region? And would that declaration of state of emergency in the Volta region mean that there will be no voting in the Volta region? And if there's no voting in the Volta region, Can we accept the result of an election which excludes the Volta region? These are important questions that we should be asking. It's a very, very important question. I know why I'm raising those questions today. You understand? A state of emergency is declared in the Volta region in November or December. Can we afford a situation where the Volta region does not take part in a national election? And if the Volta region does not take part in a national election, will the election results be validated? Of course, the Constitution says that the President can declare a state of emergency anywhere in the country. So it will be within his constitutional right to declare a state of emergency in the Volta region. What will be the outcome? What will be the morality? And so on. So these are important questions we should all be asking. In much the same way that we should be asking whether or not if a state of emergency is declared in December as a result of the spread of coronavirus, we will have an election or we will not have an election. And what would that say for us having a government and so on? Now, I've heard some of the science or scientists saying that this virus cannot survive beyond a certain temperature. Maybe it's true. I'm not the scientist. I haven't done the experiment and so on. But you see, the same science also tells us that this virus mutates. What does that mean? It means that what the virus is today, it may not be the same tomorrow. And that it is possible that at a certain time, it can survive the heat of the tropics. So the virus is constantly changing, it's adapting and so on. So it is not an easy thing. All the things that we think that the virus cannot do today, it may be able to do tomorrow. And we should be worried. In any case, this coronavirus is new. New to the extent that it's a new form of virus. We are told by the science that it is not too different from SARS and the other one and so on. It only has some distinguishing features which are different from SARS and so on. If you follow the science, it is possible that it is some SARS virus which has mutated and assumed this current character and so on. And we should be worried about it. You understand? We should beef up our science and so on. And you see, science itself, to some extent, is the study of history. Science itself, to a very large extent, is the study of history. And that is why I emphasize the study of history. I emphasize the study of history because it is key to understanding our today and making projections for our tomorrow. Unfortunately, our educational authorities do not appear to be enthused about encouraging the study of history. And that's a huge problem for all of us. Finally, I like every Ghanaian, like every human being anywhere in the world, wants us to find a solution to this pandemic. But we ought to be fully aware of the full implications of this pandemic. Indeed, it is possible that in the next 3 months to 6 months to 9 months, we would not be able to recognize the world in which we live as a result of this pandemic. This pandemic can change the world so radically that we will not be able to recognize it. The economic collapse which is emerging is frightening. And everybody also who has an understanding of history knows that in moments of mass economic collapse, war is what follows. Wars of aggression, empire building attitudes, fascism and so on follow economic collapse. How is Africa positioned to deal with the huge economic slump that we can all see approaching? How is Africa positioned? And knowing that Africa has more than 50% of the total resources of the world. The scramble for Africa is going to emerge. How are we positioned to defend our interests and ourselves, our physical being and interests? How are we going to defend that from the predatory forces of imperialism and capitalism? That's our challenge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And this one is coming from a Kwama in the U.S. He says, Senator Kwesi, you need a doctor's referral to get tested here. I'm assuming he's talking about the situation in the U.S. there.
Yeah.
Musa Batua in Kumasi says, and I essentially agree with Comrade Kwesi Pratt. Coronavirus must be taken seriously. However, so far, I have not seen any opposition person politicizing COVID-19. But when the issue of Ebola broke, this was what then opposition MPP said. Quote, President John Mahama made a deal to bring Ebola to Volta region. In Russia, similar clinical trial on Ebola medicine killed most of the monkeys used. Say no to monkey for Ebola, unquote. We in NDC are patriotic. That's why we are helping to fight. We are helping in this fight. That's the difference between the NDC and MPP. Remember, remember what you say today, because tomorrow it may haunt you. Thank you. Charles Namina Samake is saying, Day 1, President announces $100 million earmarked to fight coronavirus. Day 2, Health Minister announces 2 cases of positively tested coronavirus in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, the $100 million is finished. Case closed. Charles, very interesting one. Mujiba, I can afford 1 minute for you.
No, if he can start the next topic and he can make whatever points he wants to make. We have only 1 hour left.
So what we'll do is
let's go with what Uncle advised.
Well,
actually we have less than 40 minutes left. So okay. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the next topic that has to do with. We have 2 topics. I have less than 40 minutes left. So I'm going to give you a maximum of 5 minutes to deal with both topics. Then we can move on. So the 2 topics are the One Village, One Dam situation that was raised by the NDC, and then the issue of the calls for a reduction of fuel prices. I start with the Honorable Minta Kando.
To start with that particular topic, let me declare that I'm a farmer myself, and I farm in the northern part of the country. And this One Village, One Dam has a background. If you recall, during the 2016 campaign, it emerged that the MPP was going to establish one dam in every village in the northern part of the country to be able to help them farm all year round, especially in the dry season. And so I think that the people in the northern part of the country bought into that particular message. So everybody was looking forward for that particular dam. But unfortunately, and I can put it on record, that there is no single dam that has been constructed by the MPP, completed, and it is irrigating even an hectare of land in the northern part of the country. No one. It's not as if they have done some and we are questioning the number of dams they have done. Because don't forget, I remember I appeared on a program with a communicator and said, oh, go to the northern part of the country, we have dams there. I mean, people go there to fetch water and what have you. And I told him, if I were him, in fact, I wouldn't have gathered the courage to make such a statement. If you have a dam and people are going there to fetch water to their household, what it tells you is that you don't have potable drinking water. And as a government, you have failed those people. Especially when Dr. Baumia in the opposition makes the point that the new Nana Danko Akufo-Addo government will give every constituency $1 million per $1 million per year, and that by the end of the first year, no village in this country will be complaining about potable drinking water and toilet facilities in this country. And so, if you are a communicator for government, and you make the point that because people are fetching water from dams, and therefore you have fulfilled a promise, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. What a dam clearly does is to, after the construction, you must have what you call canals, that the water can irrigate the farm irrespective of the season. Because if you realize the northern part of the country, they have clearly 2 seasons: 6 months dry season and then 6 months a rainy season. And so any attempt to increase the number of dams in the northern part of the country may be able to increase productivity as far as the agricultural sector is concerned. And so it was not a bad thing at all. But as we speak, no NPP person, if you talk about the Nambogo scheme, that Nambogo scheme was already there. No NPP person, and I say that on authority, I farm in the Yagaba, in the northern part of the country. I do rice farming there. You see, what they stay on televisions and on radio stations to talk about, especially the president himself, is totally different from the realities on the ground. Totally different. And I commend the National Communication Officer of the NDC for taking this fight or this matter up to show to the people of this country that indeed there is no dam in. Because if you go to the northern part of the country during the dry season and you claim to have dams and you cannot have water in those dams, then where are the dams? Where are the dams?
So, how many was your communication director visited?
But I don't know if you are following my argument. No, but I don't know if.
But then the picture is painting. That is not.
No, you have the opportunity to respond to
it. But then certain times it is not proper. We have to don't allow the people to also send a false.
You come immediately
for
after
the listening public to consume.
You do with it. You do with it. Go ahead.
Why are you not?
Go ahead.
And so for those, I have had the opportunity to visit some of. I've had opportunity to visit some of these sites, and I didn't see water in those dams.
That's how many sites have you visited? How many sites have you visited, and where are the records?
If you claim there are any,
and how many dams did you build when your party was in government to help the people of this country? No, the falsehood is too much. Then sometimes you allow this, the vulnerable outside watching who consume the information, and that is unfair.
Mujib.
When you mismanage and
Mujib. This is the point.
Endanger the future of this country. That is where we are today.
Please. You are being.
And member of parliament.
You are being disruptive.
No, let's no falsehoods, and that is unfair.
No. He is speaking. When he is done, you have the opportunity
of constructed.
No, you have the opportunity of stating what the facts are.
And you call the minister to answer.
Please.
And you want me to
let
say
him
this?
finish.
That is not fair.
Let him finish. You have the opportunity of providing.
I accept the chairman.
In fact, unfortunately, Moody's interaction didn't show a single dam that has been constructed by the MPP. And we have put this forward for a very long time. Nobody has come. Don't forget, I have indicated the purpose of the dam that the MPP intended to construct, to irrigate. If you go to a sanctuary, just a sanctuary here, if you want the records of the NDC, go and see the number of hectares that was prepared and the dam there that is irrigating, and they can do not less than 3 seasons in a year. That is the type of dam.
And how many did you construct when you were in government?
When you
Chairman, that is not the problem. He can't give us the definitions of the dams that we promised to the people of Ghana. That is not should come from Honorable Atanda. That is not what we are saying.
You lie.
Are not lying. When you also lie, when you lie to change the fortunes of this country, and you ended by squandering a message and bringing This country that is why we are suffering today. That is why it is not readily available to cause the money to be able to fight coronavirus because of your thievery and debts.
Look at
who have what? When you share the money, where is the Wyoming money? Where is the Wyoming money? Where is the Guinea Fowl money?
Okay, Mujib.
The loot and share.
Yeah, continue.
The definition. You got the opportunity of trying to rule this country. Nothing you can show off.
Mujib, you know how this program works.
I have villages that is benefiting from the one village, one dam, which I'll tell you.
That you have the opportunity to do. Exactly. You know how this program operates. The way you are operating is not the way the program operates.
No, but you need to also check us. When what we are saying is not true, you need to bring us on.
So when you talk,
that is not true, my brother. That is not true.
One dam.
One dam. And what is your alternative? What do you do in our game? What stupid promises? And what is your alternative?
Oh God. We have no alternative to a several.
We are just deceiving the people of this country. No alternative. Empty.
The holes are in the ground. The people are listening.
The definition of the dam was clearly stated in the MPP manifesto. The purpose of the dam was to irrigate farms, to allow the people in the northern part of the country to do all year round farming. If you have one, tell me that you have canals leading the water onto the various lands to irrigate the farm. You need examples. I can give you some examples. If you come to, I am coming from the northern part, the western north region. If you come to the western north region, I can tell you not less than 5 districts. We have this irrigation system from region to region that they can do rice farming all year round and what have you. I've started that we have some in the northern part of the country. We have, we have some dotted across the length and breadth of this country. But the point is that, and I in my initial submission, I said that it was a good idea, so we're all looking for, especially being a farmer. But as I speak to you now, you go and do a dugout without any connection to the field, and you still continue to call it a dam. That the purpose is that the dam was supposed to irrigate. Are you telling me that people are going to use cars to fetch the water and go and pour on their plants? And you call that thing a dam? Even the minister responsible for government special initiative herself stated that we should not expect her to construct any meaningful dam. That want to tell me it's not true. You understand? And so for me, it tells you the nature of the people in power. Lying all the time. Almost all the time lying. And that is why there's the need for us to check the president when he says he has announced $100 million US. That is the more reason why we should be careful. Whatever they say. When they promise us dam and I'm holding them to say, oh, we didn't talk about dam. They had a different meaning. They have a different definition altogether. As far as dams are concerned. So this time around, when they say we'll push them to proof. So I commend seriously the communication team of the NDC. This time around, that is what we have to be doing, because they will, just like he's doing at the moment, they will lie with all the boldness, with all the energy. But when you have the evidence-based one, it will always expose them. When they told the people of this country that they have fought galamsey in this country, it took some people to go to the field and show the colors of the rivers that they were saying that those rivers were clear. If you show those evidence, how would they be able to counter your argument? Okay. So for me, I think that they have failed the people of the northern part of the country, and I don't know what they are going to tell them this time round.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable.
But on a more serious note, before I end, Kwesi made a point that there was a flag that was hoisted at the Regional Coordinating Council.
Yeah.
The Regional Coordinating Council is headed by the government representative, the regional minister. If such a flag could be hoisted at those places, then government needs to answer a lot of questions. Then what is going on, I think we must check it well.
Okay.
Because it is not, it is beyond what we are seeing.
Okay.
So we don't want a situation where government will deliberately create an atmosphere to declare state of emergency. That is possible, because I will refuse to understand how, I mean, Togoland, what do you call it? Western Togoland flag can be hoisted at the regional coordinating council. And up to now, we have not been able to deal with this matter. How government's lukewarm attitude towards the handling of this matter. If it is not deliberate to cause confusion in the stronghold of the NDC, then they must come clear.
Okay. So Mujib, over to you.
Yeah, Sena, I look at your topic, and it's the politics of unfulfilled and half-fulfilled promises takes the center stage, and NDC casts down on government one village, one dam. And I think this is general. It cuts across, not only specific to the one village, one dam. But Sena, I want to start by saying that I don't understand why this time around the focus is on dams. But it's also within their right, they can do. But let me tell you something, Sena. When you plan, or when you are planning, a lot of things come into play, a lot of factors before you plan. Sena, you have a community of about 250 people living in the community, but far distance from the next community, and you want to provide them a school classroom block, taking the population of the community, especially with those school-going age. Then you go to give them a 12-unit classroom block. I hope you are getting the argument. It will inform you what they need, the needs are at that particular moment that the people you have to provide to them. So now, this issue came up repeatedly on our discussions, the issue of the dam. And even at a point, the sector minister came out and said, even when you are a member of parliament, when you look at the budget allocation, it tells you the sort of dams that is supposed to be constructed, not mentioning the via irrigation and all those. That is not the. So when you came here and you are repeating the same thing, when the sector minister that you had the opportunity and you can call her at any time in parliament to answer questions, and which he came out to tell the people of this country, what else again are you repeating it? So that is why I said that is the definition of your dam. Maybe if that is what you are expecting, that is not what is on the ground. Because the government allocation amount to the construction of dams, 250,000 Ghana cedi, can't get you that dam you are mentioning of. So if that is your point, it means you are still at the truth. But see, now when you go to some of the communities, the challenges are there. I said it here again. I said it will have been the wish of every government in this country if we can get a better irrigational facilities across. But even in most of the communities, and you are giving them that thing, let's be very sincere ourselves. You put the population of the community as a factor, and you put a lot of things. I hope you are getting the argument. But so when you have villages, communities that are dotted, that even the population relatively are small, and they still have urgent need of water with their animals and other, they want to do other farming season, vegetables and all those, they still need it. I hope you get it. But these are some of the things we should be thinking as a people. Because in the north, when the rain stops, but our brothers and sisters still go to the farm and go to their gardens to do a lot of farming to be able to survive. So it is very critical. But the politics on it and the politics of everything in this country, see that is the problem. That is the problem we are facing. But if you are talking of unfulfilled promises, that is where we are. The NDC and MPP are all victims of this. So that we can catalog them and mention them on this program. So who is taking the credit here? And I asked, if Ghana would have been a better today, right from 1992 up to now, I think the NDC today would have stand chest out. And MPP, we can't comment. But when we want to look at the analysis, critical by critical, you have failed the people of this country. How we are getting there? So when you keep mentioning on that, we keep asking, what are the alternatives you put you have in place that you want to offer the people of this country? So fine, tell me today, if tables turn and your NDC gets to power, per the economy and everything on your with your leadership skills, you can construct the type of dams you are talking to every village in this country. You can't do it. It's not possible. Let's don't sit here and be deceiving ourselves. You can't do it. I hope you are getting the argument. But because of political expediency, you want to form in as if that you would have done it better. But when you had the opportunity, what did you do? The North didn't just emerge today. We were there long, we will continue to be there. We haven't seen much of NDC when they were in power, right from Rawley's time. See now, let me leave the dam side and go to road sector. See now, so many years was always traveling on a dusty road from Upper West region through Bole, Bomboy to catch up the southern sector. Right from PNDC to NDC, 19 good years, you have nothing to offer. You came through 1992 up to 2000, the same thing. Take Accra here. There's a lot of things we can mention. So let's, at a point, don't start deceiving ourselves. When you also know, because you've been in government together before, and you are praying to being in government, that being in government doesn't mean that all the things you can do. And that is what that is what I'm saying, that if maybe you had done better and the things were very good, economy was better, the thing is to MPP to come and be building on what you had left. That is what other developed countries are doing. I hope you are getting the argument. So sometimes let's don't start kicking ourselves. But if a policy is good, possible there are challenges in the implementation. Together, let's all accept it and say, oh, this policy is good, because you look at the intent and how it will alleviate poverty with the people it targeted. But maybe it's the implementation aspect is the issue. And with the same dams, so there were construction challenges. Some contractors didn't live up to expectation. All this were monitored and were reported by the media, and the ministers, sector minister confirmed it. And the same program on Pan-Africa, I said fine, not even only dams. You give a project like construction of school blocks. Some consultants are still having problems with that. The contractor go and execute the shadow jobs. Both the contractor and the consultant has to suffer, because government will not pay for shadow jobs. Because the consultant duty is to monitor the contractor to do a good job. So if the consultant fail and the contractor put up a schedule structure, why will government pay? How we are getting the argument? So it's not like but all these things stops at the backs of the government. That is true. But let's be fair as a serious people, that when you also had the opportunity, okay, let's leave that one. Moving forward, what are the alternatives? So I hope you are getting the argument. But I was thinking that with the broad topic, why did you choose to go to only the dams when there are other issues that you can bring that are also there when you feel the people of this country?
Okay, Mujib, thank you. Thank you. Doc, please kindly come in for us, Dr. David Percy, on the issue of the dams. Unfortunately, 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yes.
Well, that's
it's sharing the time.
It's a point that Question made. I don't think he was paying attention to my first contribution. So I spoke about the challenge of the pandemic and the nature of the interconnectedness of the world, and the fact that the political economy that we've erected essentially puts private profits, the survival of the corporations, above the well-being of the peoples of the world. And that by the time this thing has run its course, we will be in a very different place. Okay. I don't think I was paying much attention. But back to this business of the unfulfilled promises. For me, I've always found challenges in the NDC's communications. It appears that they've developed a novel approach, which is to go into the field and to provide evidence, raise a promise against the delivery. And that is all well and good. It's a radical approach, different from the Green Book, okay, where they believed that merely publishing the evidence of the investment in infrastructure was enough to convince. They had the whole array of the media cabal against them. It wasn't going to work. So maybe I'd expect a few more such approaches. So you take one wet dream promise, because I take it that these promises were generated in a wet dream, and you go to the field. Take, for instance, the free education, the promise, and the reality. Okay, of course, to do something effective with, for instance, free education may mean, for instance, exposing some teachers and administrators who will be sacked immediately. So they will have to find a way of bringing out the information. Okay, but that's how I'll see them go into the future. But this interesting prospect of declaring a state of emergency in the Volta region, well, they're trying to disenfranchise the sport base of the NDC through the voting register. If they can't have it, this is an interesting way of approaching it. So it is not the government that has to bring out the truth about the hoisting of the flag. It has to be the business of the NDC. You don't expect the government, if this was in fact part of a grand plan to create instability, and then to follow it with a state of emergency, which is a plan that I'm sure serious people in the NPP will be thinking about now, if they hadn't thought about it already. It is not for them to expose their own plan. It is for you to do the investigation, to lay out the truth. How is it possible that a flag can be hoisted? But saying that the issue of the Western Togoland, which I'll add to the unfinished business of our journey to Ghana, and the attempt to create one nation out of more than 55 ethnic states. It's an unfinished business. Far from finished, but we'll have to come to it some other time when we can find some more time to look at these issues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. And
yeah, incidentally, I would like to refer once again to an encounter I had with a government minister on another station, and this issue of the one village, one dam thing came up. I remember when the NPP made that obsequious promise during the preamble to the last election. I came out and I contested that promise because there are over 4,200 villages in the northern part of Ghana at the last count. If we were going to have 4,200 so-called dams by any definition, we were going to turn northern Ghana into a mosquito-infested floodplain. That's just what it was. Somehow or the other, the NPP kept going on at it. Somehow or the other, people believed them because they did exceptionally well in the northern part of Ghana during the last election. But today, those people who voted for them know the difference. And Mujib, let me remind you of something that you are either not old enough to know or you pretend you don't know. When it comes to the contribution of the NDC to the northern part of Ghana, it is called rural electrification. At the time rural electrification was being done, members of your party, including some people who are in government today, said it was not possible and it shouldn't be done. That is the history. I want you to contest that as well. Rural electrification. But for the National Democratic Congress and President Rawlings' insistence that that must be done, Mr. Atuaho is alive today. He was the Minister of Energy at the time. Your people said it shouldn't be done. In fact, what they said was that the North doesn't need electricity.
You don't need to go beyond
So, there are some of us who know the history of this country and are very good students of history. So you can't run that by us on this panel and say that the NDC has not contributed anything to the North. I will also remind you, as a young engineer, the firm I worked for built the Yape Mono Bridge. The road from Kintampo to Tamale, including Tamale Township roads, was part of a job that President Rawlings insisted must be done. Taylor Woodrow were constructing that road. When you people came to power in 2000, Kwame Labatel said the Tamale Township roads must be stopped. Take it from me, go and ask him. So please, I want to reiterate what my brother Akando said. The NPP have not finished one dam, one. Not one, they haven't finished one. The Minister for Special Development Initiatives herself said that, and I'm quoting here, what meaningful dams are we supposed to be constructing with 256,000 cities? What meaningful dam? And you know why I agree with her? Because 256,000 cities cannot even scratch the earth. The definition of a dam is a water retaining structure. There are many types of dams: gravity dams, arch dams, coffers, where there are so many dikes, so many dams. And whatever purpose that you want to use the dam for is how you define it. These people lied to the people of Ghana. Everywhere the then candidate flag bearer will get to, oh, Mahama has built 200 schools, yeah, you basic 350. They haven't built one lotto kiosk, one chicken coop. They haven't built one. On Thursday, a government minister admitted on the program that I was on that when we say one village, one dam, we don't actually mean one village, one dam. It's a thought process, and I'm quoting him. It's a thought process that engenders a slogan. That is what he said. He said it's a thought process that engenders a slogan. And when we say your government is a sloganeering government that is just form and no substance, you say we shouldn't say it. Muti, I am challenging you this week, and I've challenged that minister to please take me to a completed dam. I've been an engineer for 27 years. So take me to a completed dam as per the definition of a water retaining structure. Because the statement that came out of the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives, yes, after Sami Jamfi went and showed Ghanaians that empty hole that you called a dam, was that the cows had drunk all the water. That it was late March. If you knew that cows drink water by late March, what business did you have going to spend our money on those useless vocations that you spend the money on? And then you come and sit here and say the NDC has done that. And you know what they say to us? What is your policy alternative? We are not going to offer any policy alternative to pie in the sky. I have better adjectives I want to use to characterize your election promises. But children are watching, so I won't use it. You said you were going to give and this was the promise. Every constituency in this country was going to get $1 million every year. For that reason, I was going to contest as Ayawasi West Wabon constituency in Chairman. Because I wanted my share of that money. But we all knew we didn't give, wasn't going to come. At one point, Dr. Bawumia went to say that go to Accra and go and collect the money. Otherwise, it will be stolen. That was the words of the vice president of this country.
That's true. I remember vividly.
So where is the money? $4 million per constituency in the 4 years that you have been in this country. Where is the money? And you know their excuse? We are going to construct toilets with the money. Did we tell you that we needed toilets?
Unfortunately, your 5 minutes has run out.
You let it go. Next week I'll come back on it.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt.
Well, for me, the major issue here is not one of unfulfilled promises. The major issue here is that the right to free speech is under attack again. That for me is the major issue. People went to these dams to take photographs and so on, and to demonstrate that these, first of all, are no dams at all, and so on. And they were set upon by persons allegedly sympathetic to government and prevented from taking the photographs. And I've seen the videos, and I'm horrified by the videos. You see, multi-party democracy is anchored on free expression and choice. If you remove free expression and choice, you don't have a multi-party democratic order. Going to take photographs of a dam constructed with the taxpayers' money cannot be a crime. And nobody should be allowed to prevent any citizen from doing that. Now, if you add that to the closure of radio stations and all the things that have happened that stifle freedom of expression, it paints a very worrying picture. So that's my take on it. It's not about promises fulfilled or promises unfulfilled. It's about the prevention of people from expressing themselves. And we are seeing trends that are alarming. In this country, the police, the Greater Accra Regional Police Command, can actually issue a statement in which it says that it will not tolerate demonstrations. It will not tolerate demonstrations, and so on. So I'm getting increasingly worried by this trend. Now, with regards to the petroleum prices, again, my view is completely different from all the views which have been expressed so far. And I've heard people saying that because the world market price of crude has tumbled, and indeed it has tumbled. The last time I checked, it had tumbled by 46%. I don't know what the true situation is now, but I suspect that perhaps it's tumbled by more than 50% now. But that is not my argument. You see, we should not be tinkering with the price of petroleum products. We should be more interested in the formula for determining prices. Okay? Because if you just tinker with the prices, anytime the price falls on the world market, you lower it. One of the things that I've noticed since 1972 is the fact that when the prices fall and they begin to rise again, they rise with such ferocity you can't believe. So if you just go and tinker with the price and maintain the current price formula, maybe by December, taxi drivers and all consumers of petroleum products will be crying wilder than they are doing today. I have taken the trouble to examine the price build-up. And the last time I did that, if you take the ex-pump price, more than 50% of the ex-pump price is made up of taxes and levies. That's where the problem is. Governments over the year, because it is easy to collect, and so taxes and levies are easy to collect on petroleum products, put heavy taxes and so on petroleum products as a means of making up for the difficulties in collecting tax revenue. You understand? And that has created a huge problem for consumers of petroleum products. So we should begin to tackle the price formula, begin to reduce taxes and levies on petroleum products, and so on. Look, there are three push factors when it comes to petroleum pricing. Three push factors. One of them is the crude oil price, the world market price of crude oil. That's one. The second one has to do with your currency, you know, the currency depreciation levels and so on. And the third one has to do with taxes and levies. I would tackle taxes and levies as a means of bringing relief to consumers of petroleum products rather than just go for a blanket reduction of prices of petroleum products.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And that should end the show for today. But thank you for making time to watch us. Before I go, a couple of things to say. Monday Groove will come on live at the Freedom Center this Monday too. There'll be Monday Groove. If you started watching from the beginning, we'll play a set on what happened last week, so you know what to expect. This time around, the band is coming all the way from Jamaica. The band is called Equinox. Equinox from Kingston, Jamaica. Now they are coming all the way from 5 p.m. The show will start at the Freedom Center, Monday Groove. Yeah. So do join us. And in addition, Michael's Red Ice will serve cocktails. So please do join Freedom Center this Monday from 5 p.m. You'll be treated to live music from a band all the way from Kingston, Jamaica. I'd like to say condolences to the family of Scorpion, director here, and also to Jude Elikplim and her ladyship Justice Agbemava, who are burying their father today, and also condolences to the Gato and Fiado family. Thank you very much for making time to watch us today. My panel was made up of Mr. Kwesi Prajna, who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper. Sitting by him is Muji Brahma, who is a member of the MPP's communication team. Dr. David Percy is a student of history and politics. Honorable Kobna Minta Akando is the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, member of Parliament for Joaboso, and Kojocho Mboafo is the former Chief Executive of the Ghana Free Zones Board. My name is Sena Nombo. A big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM, an observer.
My conscience is very, very important. It should always be first. My conscience are listening.
Thank you. Calling you former. What are you now?
I'm an ordinary minding my business.
Well, so thank you to the crew.
In Dr. Percy's footsteps.
A big thank you to the crew at Pan African TV, to Ahunto 92.3 FM, and of course, several affiliates across the country. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and a wonderful. We are back same time next week.
No.